Cesar Garcia is living an actor's dream that every one of us has fantasized about. Being unintentionally discovered by a talent agent and telling us that we have the potential to become an actor or actress. Cesar says that acting just happened, that it landed on his lap. This may be true, but if you read between the lines throughout this interview, you'll see that the gift of curiosity is one of Cesar's strengths, one that has propelled his career. Curiosity is what made him saunter over to his first ever music video set and introduce himself to the director. Curiosity is what made him call the talent agent whom he didn't trust to see if a career in acting was possible. Curiosity is what got him his first audition and a role in a Christina Aguilera music video. Once Cesar caught the acting bug, he went through an actor's journey that provided him many firsts, opportunities, and challenges to climb up the acting hierarchy. That journey has led him to become a worldwide actor with his roles in Fast and Furious and Breaking Bad. A look at his career and you may think he's done it all as an actor and entertainer. The best part is that Cesar hasn't even reached his peak yet. A true leader is someone who uses his or her influence to empower others. Acting has given Cesar a unique avenue to use his fame to bring positivity to humanity. He travels across the country to encourage at-risk youth away from a lifestyle of gangs and drugs. He has a special connection with inner-city youth because he has personally been in their situations. The most prestigious award in Hollywood is an Academy Award. Saving adolescents from a life of gangbanging and drugs and giving those same kids hope and encouragement is an award that Cesar would rather have, and one that he proudly holds of high esteem. Hey everyone, I'm Nicholas Aguirre. Today I'm here with a very special guest. His name is Cesar Garcia. He's an actor, writer, producer, and stuntman. He's best known for his roles on Fast and Furious 4 and Breaking Bad. Cesar Garcia, thank you for coming onto the show today.
You're welcome, bro. I'm happy to be here.
No, definitely. Well, when I was doing my investigation on you and I looked back on your career, and one thing I've noticed, you've always been indirectly and subconsciously in my life. When I look back at the music videos you've been in, the movies you've been in, the TV shows you've been in, man, you've always been on my screen. Like there was no way to escape you, even if I wanted to escape you. I saw you on I think my first recollection of you was when you're on the Little Scrappy music video, when you're looking directly into the camera. I think that's my first memory of you when I saw you on TV. So do you get that a lot? Do a lot of people go up to you and go, man, you know what? Now that I recognize who you are, you've always been on my music videos and on my television screen.
I think less and less people go back to the videos, but because it's been a long time since then. But at first, that was what people recognized me for. Then once I started doing speaking roles and all that, now it's mostly that stuff. But every once in a while, I do get someone who does recognize me from that particular one, especially, yeah. No, the Little Scrappy. Yeah.
When I saw it, I was like, "Oh man, that was him. That was him." I think I was in middle school when that one came out. But I definitely had to bring that up, and I was curious to see how many people would go up to you. So consider me the first person this week that mentions that.
Well, not the first, but it's been a while since people have mentioned music videos.
So I kind of want to go back to how this all got started. When you were growing up, was being an actor in your mind? Did you always want to become an actor when you were growing up?
Actually, no. To be honest with you, I never thought about acting, to be honest. And even when it happened, it kind of just happened. It wasn't something that I pursued, looked for. It just really honestly just happened. It kind of landed in my lap. It's kind of a weird story. I could tell you. I'll make it as short as possible. Let me see.
No, please don't. As long as possible.
I was basically in East LA, and they were doing a music video for Mary J. Blige. The music video was called No More Drama. Okay, and it was being shot up the street from where I was. I heard about it. Someone told me, "Hey, man, they're doing a video." One of the little homies was like, "Man, they're doing a video up the street, woo, 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 this and that." I said, "Who is it? Go find out who it is." He said, "Mary J. Blige." I said, "What? I want to meet Mary J. Blige. I just wanted to see Mary J. Blige, to be honest." I went up there, and they had a couple of gangster type, guys on the set or whatever, and I was wearing a tank top. You can see my tattoos and all that. So I kind of had the same look as some of the people that they had hired or whatever. All I wanted to do was meet Mary J. Blige, which I got to meet her, which was pretty dope because I don't think I had met too many famous people at that point in my life. Again, I wasn't someone who was interested in Hollywood or anything like that. I'm just a guy from the hood, at this point. And a celebrity being near me is like, what? So I went up there, met her, ended up chopping it up with the director. This is my first time ever being on any kind of set, anything, meeting anyone like that, a director, anything like that. Next thing you know, I ended up giving them some pointers, I guess, on the thing, and they ended up letting me stand in it or whatever. I mean, I think no one's going to ever recognize me from that video. But when it happened, I remember like watching the video, recording it, and literally pausing it and saying, dude, that's my shoulder right there. It was like a quick, they panned the camera and I was right there. Anyways, at the end of the day, before I left, I ended up running into a guy named Manny Jimenez, which had a company called Suspect Entertainment at the time. He was the CEO. The company pretty much specialized in putting people like me, gang member type, thuggish looking guys, with tattoos, bald head, whatever. Putting people like me on videos, TV, and movies and stuff like that, commercials, you name it. So this was the guy, He came up to me and he said, hey, man, you got a good look. You ever thought about acting? I'll be honest, at that point, I was like, acting? I'm like, I ain't no actor, homie. I mean, it was almost my mentality at the time. Not that I was a negative person, but like I said, I just never thought about acting before. That was probably the furthest thing that ever came to my head in trying to do something, trying to, pursue something big. It would have never been acting at that point. However, I was at a point in my life when I was looking for something to do, something different, I had like little regular jobs here and there, the typical story, guy from the hood, just getting by, doing what I had to do or whatever. Acting was something that never crossed my mind. So at that moment, it was almost like an insult, kind of. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, probably to regular people, an insult. That would be amazing if someone told me that. But to me, it was kind of insulting. Like, dude, I ain't no actor. What do I look like, an actor? You know what I mean? Anyway, he gave me his card, and I kept that card for probably like 6 months. I honestly forgot about it. I think the first thing that came to my head after he gave me the card was, oh man, this guy, here goes this thing again, some guy trying to make money, blah, blah, blah. It's probably not even legit, and the guy was kind of like me. So I'm like, okay, this guy's probably just a hustler. You know what I mean? Even though he had said he had some of the people in the video, they were his clients or whatever. I pretty much thought, whatever, dude. 6 months later, I was at the house and, I don't even remember who found the card or who brought the card to my attention. Hey, this card, who is this? I'm like, oh, it was some dude, he was talking about if I wanted to be an actor or something. And I was like, man, why didn't you call it? I'm like, I don't know. It's probably fake anyway. It's probably just a hustle. He probably wants some money, whatever. And it's going to be one big old thing, I don't know what happened or how that person got me to call, but I called the number and the actual guy answered. And, I told him, yeah, man, you gave me a card at this video, blah, blah, blah. It was a couple months ago. I don't know how long. And he's like, where are you from or whatever? And I gave him some information that would help him identify me from that day. And he was like, dude, you never called. And I'm like, you remember me? He's like, yeah, why didn't you call me? You should have, I told you, give me a call, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, at that moment, I figured, you know what? That's pretty significant. The guy remembers me. Maybe it's not a scam. You know what I'm saying? So I said, okay, what do you need me to do? He said, send me a picture. Take a picture of yourself, or if you have a picture, that shows your tattoos or whatever, send it to me, write your name, address or whatever on it, and I'll go from there. And, and he's like, you have a good look. I can get you on videos and all that, blah, blah, blah. They pay you, they feed you. I'm like, really? You know what? All right, I'll send you one, Sent him the picture. He called me up when he received it. Probably that week, he sent me on an audition, which I had no idea what the hell an audition was. It happened to be for a music video for Christina Aguilera. It was a music video called Dirty. People used to recognize me from that too. That was my very first acting gig, I guess. I mean, I wasn't speaking, but it was like a featured extra. I did extra work for probably a few years before I got my first speaking role. And it was mostly videos, ludicrous videos, Christina Aguilera, Little Scrappy, like you said, NERD, the Neptunes.
I saw that one, last night.
Yeah, so there was a couple, and that's how it started, dude. That was the beginning.
That sounds literally like a Hollywood type story. Being undiscovered when you didn't want to be discovered. I feel like people work throughout Hollywood in the restaurants because they want to be discovered. They purposely work there to be discovered. But you were just minding your own business. You were just had curiosity, and you ended up being discovered. That sounds like a Hollywood type story, man.
It is. You know what? As I'm telling you, I feel that I'm like, wow. Like I'm listening to myself, and I can't make this up. It really happened that way.
Take me back to the beginning with this, with your audition for the Christina Aguilera music video. When you went to the audition, did you have any acting skills? What did they tell you to do so that way you could get the role?
So the Christina Aguilera audition, I did not have any acting skills whatsoever at this time. I didn't even know what an audition was. I mean, the guy, again, the CEO, Manny Jimenez, when he gave me this audition, he had to tell me what an audition was, which I thought was weird. But here I am. I show up to the audition. When I walk into the lobby, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm here for Christina Aguilera audition. A girl was like, oh, yeah, sign your name here or whatever, and put the agency you're with or whatever. So I signed my name on this list. It was like probably, I don't know, over 100 people auditioning that day. I sit down in the lobby and I look around and I see all these like gangster type guys, actors. But in my eyes at that moment, I saw them and I just knew that they weren't really from that life. I knew that they didn't have that background, of gang member or whatever. I mean, they were dressed like the stereotype, Hollywood stereotype of what a gang member is, They had these funny pants and colors, and they had funny colored bandanas, and they were wearing them all wrong. You know what I'm saying? like they had just seen a video and showed up at the audition. I'm gonna put it on like that, like Tupac or whatever, So it was actually really funny. I was laughing to myself in my head, like what the hell is this?
I'm laughing right now.
A bunch of wannabes, like a bunch of phonies. Like I showed up, mind you. My manager told me, hey, just go as you are. I said, what do I wear or what do I do? He said, no, just go as you are. The way you look the day I met you, show up like that. So I showed up like that, which is the way I dressed at the moment. So here I was with some 50-30 Ben Davis pants, creased up, the Nike Cortez, a white tank top, some shades that we call them lokes, like facing the back of my head. It's like the way we used to wear them in the hood or whatever. So immediately when I walk in, all these guys are looking at me like, what the hell? Like, this guy's like the real deal, right? So now we go to the audition, right? So probably 5-6 people go in before me. And so I go in, and the girl's like, oh, wow, you look really authentic, and are those tattoos real? Because as I was out there, I remember seeing guys that had like tattoos, but they looked weird, Apparently, some of these guys had gotten fake tattoos that day, Mine were real. So I walk in, and the director and the casting director and I think one of the producers or whatever are in there, and oh man, you got a good look, this and this and that. So this is the scenario. So this is the part where acting was not needed for my part in that, They said, you're a guy in the hood. There's this guy going by. I don't remember exactly the details, but it was something that was very normal to me. It was something that was like an everyday thing in the hood. So they told me, do what you would do in this situation, say what you would say, blah, blah, blah. Did it, and I booked it. So it was that simple. And after booking me, they actually ended up getting about 90% of, or probably all of them, I'm not sure, but at least 90% of the people, the gangster type, that was casted were all from the same manager that I was with. So once they casted me, I think they asked him, hey man, you got any more guys like him? And he said, sure, I got a bunch of them. Next thing you know, boom, there we are. And it's mostly the people from that same agency. So we were at the video, and it was a bunch of us.
Sounds like a guy who had a good eye for talent, right? If they got everyone from the agency. So I have to tell you, were you nervous when it was your time to audition and they told you, okay, this is a scenario, do what you have to do? Were you even nervous at all, or were you just like, you know what, I have nothing to lose at this point?
Not at all. It was like a no-brainer. I couldn't believe that that's all they wanted me to do. I'm like, really? So wait a minute. You just want me to do what I would do, what I've probably been doing my whole life? Okay. Like, you just want to see me do it? All right.
Did they tell you on the spot you're hired?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember.
Because at that point, that's just like a microphone drop. Boom, got it.
I'm pretty sure that they gave me some kind of response that let me know that I had it. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember what it was exactly. But I think I left knowing that I had it. Knowing that I was hired. I knew it.
Even if they didn't tell you, you just knew it.
I just knew it. I just knew it because of their reaction once I did what I had to do. They were like, oh, wow, and they clapped and everything. I didn't think I did anything. I was like, I'm just being me. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything, amazing. I'm just being me. You just wanted me to do something that I'm, used to doing. So that's how it went. That's how it went.
Okay, so that was your first audition. Now take me to the actual set on the music video. What was going on? What did it have you do? Were you nervous? How did you prepare? All that good stuff.
I've never been nervous. Okay, I can't say never. There's probably been a few very small moments. And the reason for that, which was a lot later after doing videos. During videos, music videos, I was never nervous.
Got it.
Because it was kind of a no-brainer. I mean, you don't have to memorize a bunch of lines or anything. You're just kind of being yourself. At least for the music videos, I was hired as who I was. So it wasn't like I was hired to be something that I'm not. So yeah, I wasn't nervous ever during the music videos. And it was actually really fun. And I think I got the bug, I guess you could say the acting bug because it's part of that industry. But that's when I said, you know what? I could do this. I could do this for years to come. This is fun. Because at first it was just fun, and it's not always fun. It's always a great experience, but, once you start doing speaking roles, then it becomes work. It actually becomes work. I've always enjoyed every single project I've worked on, but I'll be honest with you, when it comes to memorizing, 6, 10, 12 pages of dialogue, then it's work. It's fun. But it's challenging and it's work. It's not like a piece of cake.
From that first music video, how did the ball start rolling? Like, okay, now you have the next gig for this music video and then this music video. Because from what I understand, you did music videos for about 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So how did it just keep on rolling? Did your manager get you those gigs, or were people seeing you in these music videos and they contacted you guys like, we want Cesar on our set? Just how did you just have so much momentum?
Well, I think that because of me and a couple other people that he had on his roster that were booking a lot of different things, videos, commercials, or whatever. There was out of probably 30 or 40 guys or so, there was probably like 5 or 6 that were booking a lot, and I was one of them. And so I think that the casting agencies were watching other people's videos, other jobs, and were saying, "Oh, we want those guys." So the agency that I was with became kind of the go-to, for authentic, street, urban, LA-looking guys. And so that's how it happened. So it wasn't just me. It was like a group of us and his company kind of getting that reputation. Like, he's the guy, And there was actually a lot of media on the company shortly after that.
When did it actually occur to you that, like, man, I'm making a career out of this, or man, I'm getting really heavily involved in these music videos and this industry? Like, did it just hit you out of nowhere?
At first, the music videos, like I said, was fun. You were getting paid. They would feed you, and it was fun. It was completely fun for me to do this stuff. But when I started seeing it as like a life kind of thing, like, you know what, I could make a living out of this, like, for the rest of my life, was when I started doing speaking roles. When I started understanding what acting really was and getting into the understanding of the craft itself. And the fact that once I did that, I realized that I had, some talent, that I was actually, good at it, and I had potential. So when I realized that is when I first thought, you know what, I can take this all the way to the top, and I'm gonna, do this for the rest of my life. And that's when I started thinking big. So at first I didn't think big, I'll be honest, during the videos. It was most fun, and I didn't know how long more I would do it for. But once I got the first, second, third speaking role, then I got the bug for the real acting, and I realized the potential and the fact that I could literally make a living doing this for the rest of my life, and grow and evolve, and possibly hit the marks of a lot of the people that I've looked up to, growing up, that were actors, people that I admired, and people who I loved their work.
Let's transition into that. When did you get your first speaking role?
My first speaking role was actually a television show called The Shield, which is no longer around. And that was my first speaking part on a television show.
Did you have to audition for that one too? And if you weren't accustomed to speaking, how did you prepare for that speaking role when you went to the auditions, or how did that come about?
My first audition for a TV show, I did have speaking. It wasn't a lot, but it was something I had never done. So the CEO and manager of the company that I was with, he's the one that told me how to go about it. He pretty much gave me the ropes on it. He told me, study the lines. You got to know them when you get to set. You gotta have it. You got to show up and you got to memorize them. I don't know if you memorize stuff. I don't know if you're good at that, but however it is that you can memorize the lines they give you, memorize them. Practice with somebody, whatever, practice in the mirror, whatever you got to do. And so I really didn't know how to go about it. Over the years, I've kind of came up with ways to make it a little easier for me. But at first I didn't know. I didn't have any ways of doing it other than just what he said. So I did what he said, and I managed to memorize the lines. And again, it was my first role on television was a role that was very close to who I was. So it was more about memorizing the lines and the delivery. A little bit of acting, I guess, right? Because it's not real, so that there's cameras there. So I guess it takes a little bit of acting, but for the most part, it was memorization and and just delivering it, being in the moment, so that it seems real.
I know you say you don't get nervous, but were you a little bit nervous when it was time to start speaking, for auditions and start getting these bigger roles?
Yeah, I mean, there's been times when I have been a little nervous, and it's usually because there's a lot of lines involved, and and you try to in your head, oh man, I want to get it right. I want to get it, every beat right. I want to, and now that I'm doing more, bigger roles or whatever, with more depth and more range or whatever. So it's not as simple as just memorizing. It's like acting as you move forward and grow and evolve and get bigger opportunities. It gets more complicated, every time. It becomes a little more challenging, So now that you got the lines down, now you got to get the beats right. Once you get the beats right, you got to memorize everybody else's lines as well. If it's a big scene, if it involves different characters, And, the momentum has to be right, You don't want to sound flat through the whole thing. So you want to have that up and down, side to side kind of thing, range. It's got to seem organic and real and honest. So there is many levels to acting. At first, it's simple, and then it just gets a little harder and harder and harder.
For these many levels of acting, did you get an acting coach, or who helped you prepare for these different levels of acting, different levels of voices you have to do, different characterizations that you have to play? How did you prepare for all that, or how did you just get better throughout the years?
As I started to do characters that weren't necessarily something that I already had, as part of myself, then I started to study the craft, and I did take acting classes, and I have had some coaching as well. And I've learned from the acting classes, I've learned from the coaching sessions, I've built up the arsenal of acting, with stuff that didn't necessarily come from me, stuff that I didn't come up with, ideas from other people, teachers, coaches, all these different ways of doing it, all these, how do they call it?
Methods?
Methods. There you go. Yeah, methods. All these different methods. Yeah. I also read a lot of books on acting, from credible teachers and coaches,
So you said that your first role in television was The Shield, right?
Yes.
So take us to the first day when you were arriving on set. What were you thinking?
The first time I had a speaking part on The Shield, I was nervous a little bit because it was something new, and I knew that was like I was moving on to something bigger. So there was a little bit of nerves, but I'll be honest, once I was there, I was cool and I got in the zone, Yeah. And I think I killed every part of it. Like, I think it was like maybe 1 or 2 takes and I did it. Yeah.
So from The Shield, how did the momentum grow that you got your next speaking roles after that? Or do you remember what happened after The Shield that led to the next couple of roles in your life to start your career?
Well, once you have some speaking credits on your resume, then you can, at least when I started, your resume was important. I don't know how important it is. I'm sure it's always going to be important, but a lot of guys do get lucky and get work speaking parts before they've done like a bunch of stuff. For me, I went through it, I guess, like more the old school way. So I had to build my resume. And the more I built my resume, the bigger the roles were that I was able to try for. So my manager at the time, started me off by getting me in the door to begin with as someone that didn't have any speaking experience. I did it, I aced it, and that then gave him, the power to say, hey, my guy was on The Shield, Will you see him for this part, And then those people would look it up. Oh, okay, yeah, he was on The Shield. Oh, yeah, whether they saw it or not, the credit was there. So then they said, yeah, sure, we'll check him out. And little by little, I proved myself, to these casting agencies and casting directors, and a lot of them grew to like me and actually reached out to my manager on their own and said, hey, man, I'm working on this project right now. We're gonna cast for this. For this TV series or this film, we'd like to bring Cesar in. We like Cesar and we think he'd be great for this role, And so it was kind of that way. So it was the credit speaking for itself, my work, and then these relationships and people, liking my work and bringing me in, because of that. So like a word of mouth kind of thing as well within the industry.
So we know your first music video ever, the Mary J. Blige. We know your first audition for music video is Christina Aguilera. Your first audition and your first speaking role on the TV series was The Shield. I think you already know what I'm going to say next. What was your first role in a major movie?
In a movie, okay, major movie. I think I did a couple of independents, but let's just skip to the first bigger movie, I guess, right? Yeah. Which would probably be Harsh Times. With Christian Bale, Eva Longoria, Terry Crews, the director being David Ayer, well-known director. That was my first time on a big movie. Yeah, it was Harsh Times. In between that, I did a couple of independents and stuff like that. The way that I transitioned into film, into features, was by doing student films. I did a lot of stuff for free. I started that way. I pretty much paid my dues. Like I said, now I see guys just jumping in and getting the opportunity that it took me a while to get. But for me, I started off piece by piece, little by little. But the first big movie was the Harsh Times.
So if I understand correctly, you got your role in Harsh Times because you did a bunch of independent films, and that led to Harsh Times?
That didn't lead to Hard Times. I'm sorry, that did not lead to Harsh Times. But as far as my experience, I built my experience by doing that. I didn't wait for just like the opportunity on a big film. I started doing small films, independent, student films, to prepare myself for the opportunity when it came for a big film. And the role wasn't big, but again, that was my first. And I got to work with, Christian Bale, which was big time.
That's pretty
I actually
cool.
got to beat him up, which is pretty cool. I think I accidentally hit him for reals a couple of times too. He was a really cool guy. Very good sport, yeah.
I still have to watch that movie.
Yeah, Harsh Times, yeah, by David Ayer.
So now I have to ask you, after you filmed, after when that movie came out, where did you actually watch it the first time, the first complete movie? And you saw yourself on the screen.
Well, Harsh Times, we went to the premiere.
Okay,
we
yeah.
were invited to the premiere. My manager, Manny, had a good relationship with the director and stuff, and one of the producers, and they invited our whole agency, actually, to the premiere. So it was really cool. And that's the first time I saw it.
What were you thinking, man, when you saw yourself on the big screen? Like, did a smile come on your face? Was it just natural? Like, what was going through your mind and your emotions? That's pretty cool. That's an experience that a lot of us will not get to experience.
I was definitely smiling, and I think it was surreal, you know? I knew that I had shot the movie. I knew that I had been on set all those days doing all that. But once I saw it, it was like, oh, man, this is real. Like, okay, now it's for reals. Wait a minute. I'm on the screen with people like Christian Bale, Eva Longoria, all these big actors, and I'm actually in it with them. You know, I'm in this thing with them. And so, yeah, it was surreal.
Nah, that's pretty cool. And then from there, how did Harsh Times lead to your other roles in movies?
The same way, you know, once I did that, then I had that under my belt, you know, credit-wise. So then my manager was able to pitch me to other, you know, big movies, big budget movies. And that's when Fast and Furious came on. And I also did another really cool movie, Drive. They actually cut out my scene. I know they cut out my scene. That one's a really cool story as well. I originally had booked a bigger role, but because I wasn't known, I don't want to get into the technicalities of it, but because I wasn't a name, that definitely affected, you know, the situation at that time. And the director really wanted me for it, but I guess he felt bad that the corporate people, you know, wanted someone with a name for that role, even though I was perfect for that role, according to the director and my preparation and everything. So I had to step down, unfortunately, but the director, maybe because he felt bad or he just wanted me in it anyway, he offered me a different role. And so I did that role, but unfortunately, that role ended up on the cutting room floor.
Oh, man.
I still went to the premiere, and I still get residuals to this day.
Yeah.
But you will not see me in that movie. But yeah, it was incredible either way, because the scene that they removed was a scene with Bryan Cranston. The main guy from the Mayans, the white Perlman.
Okay.
Ron Perlman
I
or
don't know
John
the name.
Perlman. Anyway, really cool scene, but at the end of the day they removed it. But that's how I was able to get bigger movies like
Got
those.
it.
Yeah.
So even though you didn't appear in it, just because you were on set, you met people, you did what you had to do, that led to other roles.
Yeah. And then
So all wasn't lost.
and all wasn't lost, you know. And I always tell actors, this is a good thing. This is where I'm going to share something really cool for actors.
Please do.
No matter what it is, whether it's an audition, whether it's a small role, a big role, whether it's a big movie, whether it's an independent movie, whether it's a student film, always give it your best. Always do your best. Prepare for it as if it was for Steven Spielberg, as if it was for, you know, as if you were going to work with Robert De Niro or whoever your favorite actor is. Prepare, and when you show up to set, you know, work it like you're getting $1 million for it, because at the end of the day, you don't know who's going to see it. And even when you go to an audition, go in there as if they're giving you the lead role for the next biggest movie ever, because I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of stuff that I got from stuff that I didn't get. And what I mean by that is I went to auditions where I knew that I did an amazing job, but I wasn't right for the role, you know, physically, whatever, my voice, stature, maybe I was too short, you know, too skinny, whatever the case may be. There was roles that I tried out for where I was perfect, but my tattoos got in the way. And at the end of the day, you know, they had to just go with someone else because, you know, I wasn't big enough to sit there and do all the work and you know, cover all this stuff. But I'm going to tell you, because I went in there and did an amazing job, there was many times when these producers and directors and people that were in the room, or people that had seen me on something that was small and had something bigger in the works, they saw me and they said, hey, I want that guy. Find who that guy is. I want that guy. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you're an actor, give it your best. Go 100% every time, no matter what it is. I've been around people on sets, and I'm gonna tell you, I've been around actors. I could recall back in the days when I was doing these small movies and these small films, and there was actors that I was with side by side, and they didn't really care to do that much. They were like, who cares? This is just a student film. It ain't gonna go nowhere. I'm gonna save my best for the bigger stuff. And you know what? That is the worst thing you could ever do. Because once you film something, you have no idea whose eyes that's going to cross. So give it your best. So that's my little, that's my honest 100%, best advice I give any actor out there. No matter what it is, give it your best. Prepare like it's the biggest role of your life, and go in there and kill it. Because at the end of the day, even if that film doesn't go anywhere, somebody big might see it. Somebody that has something going on might see it. And not only that, but some of these small directors might be a big director one day, and they'll be like, you know what? There was this guy, man, when I was starting, I was doing this little, bootleg little film. That guy was good, man. Now that I got, $1 million from this, from these investors, and I could do this big movie, I want that guy. And they will reach out.
Man, you motivated me right now. I want to go through a wall. That's some good advice. Not only for acting, anyone could apply that to any aspect of life too. You never know who's just looking.
Absolutely.
Give it your all. Give it your all.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. For me, it was acting, but I think that it's good all across the board in any industry or career you choose, right?
It's like what you said.
Always give it your best, and always be on your A game. That will always open up doors. Even if you don't get that, you might get something else because of that, because you put that much into it.
I have to ask you, one of the roles that you're most known for is Fast and Furious 4. Take me through it. How did you get that role for Fast and Furious 4, especially going into the audition or going to the film knowing that they already had 3 successful films before that?
Fast and Furious was one of my most fun roles, to this day. For one, I really enjoy doing physical stuff. I like doing my own stunts. I didn't do all my stunts on that, but I did most of them. I didn't do the part at the end of my scene where I fly off a rooftop and land inside of a car. I'll be honest, I didn't do that. They wouldn't let me, actually. They wouldn't let me because if I got hurt and they needed to redo it, then they'd be in trouble. So they got a lookalike stuntman for that. But not only that, but I got to work with one of the coolest people that I've met, one of the coolest A-listers that I've ever met. There's been a lot of great people, don't get me wrong. I haven't had any bad experiences with big actors, but Paul Walker was definitely one of the most pleasant to work with. Just a down-to-earth guy, really cool. I never felt like I was around someone who was on that level that he was on, in the game. Really cool guy. And again, it was a really fun scene. Even though it just lasted a few minutes, it was a couple of weeks of work, because you got to do it 30 times. You got to do it a bunch of times. And, just to do one part of my chase scene was like a whole day's work.
That was 30 weeks of work?
Not 30. No, it was a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks. I don't know where I get 30 from. Yeah.
It was a couple of weeks, yeah. But the whole thing is just a couple of minutes long. But it was weeks of work. They got to get every angle. They got to get it right. They got to get, close-ups on me, close-ups on Paul, everything else that's going on. So that was definitely my favorite role was my role as Juvenile on Fast and Furious 4. And it was really cool to be on such a big set. It's a big difference from the smaller films. It's a big crew. And they just got all the cool stuff, all the bells and whistles. You know what I mean?
Man, that scene was really intense. At the end, when you're pointing at your gun at that one window, and he comes to the other window, man, that's some pretty good acting right there. That was pretty intense. Like, oh man, he's about to shoot him in the face right now.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that role, it did help that it was that the character was a type, where I could use some of the stuff that is Cesar Garcia, some of my background and some of the elements that was who I was in real life or who I had been, right? So I used a lot of that, but at the end of the day, at the end, that did take acting. And the reason I'm saying that is because in my past, I've been through a lot of crazy stuff. And that last scene, me personally, I wouldn't have been scared in that situation. Not to sound cool, but, it did take some acting to portray, real fear and everything that was going on. So at that point, I had taken classes. I had, I had coaching and stuff like that. I understood that there has to be real feeling. You can't pretend. You can't, just act like someone that is scared. You got to feel it. You got to tap into something, and it's got to be real because the camera will see it. And what they say, or at least there's something that I've heard from people, big actors and teachers, is that good acting isn't acting at all, and that's true. So at that moment, I wasn't acting. Of course, they'll say, "Man, your acting was great," but like I said, I tapped into what the craft is to do that role at the end of that scene, and it was real. I pulled it off. Generally, I guess a guy like me would be waiting for the guy to pop out and shoot him, and I wouldn't be scared. But yeah, it took some acting to do that, and that's the reason that they hired me. Justin Lin wanted someone authentic, and not to knock anybody or anything, but I know that he went through a lot of people that were authentic like me. And at the end of the day, he told me I was the only guy that actually was able to do the acting part of it. Everybody else was cool. They had the tats, they had the look, they were tough looking and all that. He said, but at the end of the day, he said, out of all the people that I saw, he goes, you were the one that nailed it. He goes, that at the end of that scene, he goes, I needed someone that understood what acting is. He said, and you nailed it, and that's why I hired you.
Man, those are high compliments.
And I told him, I appreciate it.
I see the smile on your face. Those are good compliments, man.
Yeah,
especially when you were competing with that role from a lot of people, and he really wanted someone specific.
He wanted authentic for that. He didn't want a lot of these seasoned actors that would have done a great job. He wanted someone that would be, that wouldn't be recognizable at that moment out of the Latino, Chicano actors that are out there, which there's a lot of really good ones. He wanted someone new. He wanted someone real. He wanted someone as authentic as possible, but that could pull off the element of acting at the end of the day. That could really, just do it. And like I said, I prepared every way I can, and I was actually called back, I think, about 4 times. Usually actors, they go to the audition, and then you get like that one callback, and usually at the callback, at the one callback, they decide. For me, I must have went to Universal Studios probably 4 or 5 times before I was actually booked on this. So they kept bringing me back, which means that they kept trying other people as well.
When you say kept bringing you back, like they kept on having you audition, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh,
they kept having me audition. So typically you audition one time.
Got it.
They narrow it down to a couple of people. They do what is called a callback, and then they choose someone out of that 3 or 4 or whatever it is. In my case, I auditioned for Fast and Furious a good 4 or 5 times.
Man, so you really deserved it.
Yeah.
Now I have to ask you about Breaking Bad. How did you get into Breaking Bad?
Breaking Bad, I booked that through the same agency, through my manager with Suspect Entertainment. I don't know if I've said that name yet. Same thing. I had already some credits. So me and a couple of the guys that had credits, he pitched us to the casting director. Casting director also was looking for, someone authentic or whatever. So they brought us in. I booked one of the roles, and then 2 other guys that are actually brothers booked this other role, and we're all from the same company at that moment. And same thing, we auditioned. There was a lot of people there. We got the call back, went in there, and the people that booked it took it. You know.
It sounds like you have a good agency, or like this agency is really has been getting you gigs for.
Well, no. I haven't been with that agency for years.
Got it, okay.
It's actually not even around anymore.
Okay.
The CEO of that agency is actually a director now. He's a director and a writer.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
And I have just starred on one of his projects
Nice.
as well. So it's really cool. We still have a really good relationship. But at the time, that agency was getting me a lot of work. Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So for Fast and Furious, the franchise Fast and Furious, and Breaking Bad, that's a movie and that's a show that's not only known throughout the whole United States but around the world. How do you feel about being, part of franchises that the whole world has seen your work? Do you lay at bed at night and go, man, the whole world has seen my acting?
I'm sure I've had those moments. Absolutely. When it comes up now, even when people tell me like, "Oh man, I love you on Breaking Bad," I get that feeling of like, I realize how fortunate I was to be able to be a part of at least those two projects, which are huge. They're huge. Like you said, they're known worldwide and to this day have fans worldwide. And people are becoming fans, I believe, as we speak. There's people that have never watched the show that are turned on by it, and they're new fans. So I think Breaking Bad and Fast and Furious is going to be around for a while as far as the fandom of it. You know what I mean? And I've always been, when I think about it, I always get a really big sense of gratitude, that I was able to be a part of those two things.
How did you transition to doing your own stunts and being a stuntman?
Being a stuntman is something that I started doing before I started doing speaking roles, actually. If you remember a movie called SWAT. It was a movie called SWAT. Yeah. The very first one with Samuel L. Jackson.
LL Cool J.
Yeah.
And Michelle Rodriguez, I think she's in it. But LL Cool J, Samuel L. Jackson, but yeah, that one.
Yeah. It was the first, because I think there's like another movie called SWAT, but the first one, the bigger one, it was a big budget movie. I actually did stunts on that, so I didn't have a speaking part on that, but I did stunts.
How did you prepare to become a stuntman? Like, I guess that takes a lot of work, right? So you don't get injured. I guess, what's a career to becoming a stuntman that you took so that way you could prepare to do all these stunts?
Well, again, I didn't wake up one day and say I want to become a stuntman, and then figured out the things that I need to do that and the kind of training that I need. It kind of happened backwards. Being the person that I was, my manager knew my background, and so when I booked doing stunts on SWAT, my manager had already asked me, you ever handled guns? I said, yeah, I know how to handle guns, all that. And so when he pitched me to the casting people, he pitched me that way already, like having all that experience. This is a guy who knows how to use AK-47s and SKSs, and he knows about automatic weapons and what have you. He has all that experience, has handled them before and all that. He's also someone who can jump over a wall and jump over cars and run and roll on the floor and do all this crazy stuff. So when he pitched me that way, and we went in for the audition, them of course considering that everything he said was legit, it was kind of like, okay, this guy has the look. As far as what his manager says, he has all this experience. So they chose me that way. And that's how I that's how I got a lot of stuff stunt-wise. It was always connected to experience that I had. Even on my resume, as far as like the stunt work, I had stuff listed as like, can scale fences, jump, stuff like that. Can do, car chases. I've even done, in my career, I've even done precision driving, which is something that most people have to go to school for and all that. With me, they just took a chance on me, considering that I stated that I had done stuff like that in vehicles in my past, and so I was given that chance through that. And that's how I got a lot of stunt stuff. To be honest, it was through that. It was the fact that it was listed in my credentials.
What's a fact about being a stuntman that the people outside of Hollywood would just find fascinating, or something that they just never thought a stuntman has to go through while doing his performance on set?
Well, doing stunts, I haven't done stunts to the highest levels of it. I never did it to those levels. There's guys that are like professional stunt guys, and that's all they do. These guys are incredible. I can't say that I ever did any stuff on those higher levels. I did what would be to them the more simple stuff. You know, I still did some really cool stuff. And even at my level of stunt work, there was times when I have been hurt. There's been times in my career where I've gotten fractured ribs, where I've twisted an ankle, bruising, cuts, stuff like that. I've had glass, fake glass, not real glass, but I've had fake glass that's made out of sugar that looks just like glass that they make for the sets. I've had that stuff pierce my skin before. Nothing major, but little scrapes and cuts and stuff like that. It's happened. Again, I never did it to the level of these guys that jump off of planes and stuff, For that, I would obviously need a lot more experience than I already have. But the stuff that I did was pretty dangerous anyway. I've like I said, I've hurt myself, not majorly, but I have. Yeah.
Do you ever want to get to that level where you're jumping off airplanes and jumping off buildings? Does that call your attention?
If I had the chance to be a lead in a really big movie and I was offered the chance to do stunts, I think I would.
Yeah.
Would I continue to do that? Probably not. But I would love to do it once, if under the right circumstances, under the fact that, I'm a lead role, right? I'm getting paid big time, and then I would take, I would then, research that particular craft more than I ever have, to be able to do that. Yeah, but I would love to do it someday. But if I don't get to do it, that's fine. I'm cool with just acting now. And letting other people do all the crazy stuff.
I definitely had to ask you because I've never talked to a stuntman before or anyone that did stunts. So my curiosity drove me to ask you those questions. I want to transition to you becoming a producer. What made you become a producer?
At some point in acting, the more you learn about it and the more people you meet and stuff, I started becoming interested in other aspects of the acting world. Acting is great. I love it. But at some point, I thought about doing other things. And I was very curious and wanted to know how all that other stuff works. And once I looked into it, then, of course, I wanted to try it. So it's just me really wanting to learn every aspect of the business. That's where that comes in. And that is the reason I've tried, producing. I've done writing, producing, co-producing, co-writing. And what I haven't done yet is directing, but I'm definitely going to do that as well. Yeah, that's something that I look forward to doing one day.
For people who don't exactly know what producers do, what exactly do producers do? Do you create your own independent films, or help people understand you as a producer? What do you see that as your role?
Well, producers are a part of like this complex formula mechanism that turns an idea or a script into a full feature film or TV show or whatever. So producers play a major role in getting it done. For a producer, it's about getting it done. It's about producers do a lot of different things. It's not one thing producers do. Producers are like a very important mechanism to the whole thing, and it's about getting it done. The director directs it, right? Then you got the DP, the guy who's shooting it. The producer is kind of in the background, but he has to make it happen. He has to make sure that things are right, whether it be locations, whether it be, certain actors, the money to rent or whatever, a house or certain cars. And so producer job is a really hard job, actually. It's it's not just one thing. It's like a bunch of stuff. I think producers have the hardest job. I think so.
I like what you said, how you define producer. The person that just gets stuff, the person who makes sure that gets stuff done. I think you simplified it the best way that not even Google could simplify it that way.
It is
so
that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, just the person who just gets stuff done on set.
If you're a producer on a show or a film, everybody's going to look to you to make sure that you're the person that has to get it done and has to do whatever it takes to make sure that the day of shooting or the rest of the shoot, everything from whether it be equipment to the people are there, and everybody is at an optimum level of what is it called? Optimum level of performance, and gets the job done. It falls on you as a producer. I think being a producer is very stressful. The times that I've done it, it wasn't that stressful, but I realized how much it takes to produce a movie or a film. I mean, a film or television.
I'm sure you have learned a lot, right?
Yeah.
You produced a short film called Chuco.
Yes.
I saw it. I loved it. And I'll tell you why I loved it right now in a second. For those people who haven't seen it, what's Chuco and how can they see it?
Chuco is a short film. It's a short film where there is no dialogue. The style would be, I guess, like it's really artsy, right? And the audio is actually
Classical music.
Classical music.
That's what I loved about it.
Yeah,
I loved it, man.
It's a story being told through classical music and pretty much gestures and actions without hearing anybody speak, through the whole thing. What was the original question? I'm sorry.
What's Chuco and how can people see it?
Chuco is a short film. You can watch it if you go to my IMDb page. You can see it there. It's one of the videos that's on there. I just spoke to the producer, the co-producer. I was a co-producer on that. To the other co-producer, unfortunately, the director has passed. The director passed. Time flies. I want to say a year. It might be 2 years ago. But his name was Steven Stickler, and he passed away from cancer. So the other producer to this short film is about to put it on his YouTube link, which is Manny Jimenez Sr. on YouTube. You can see a lot of his work on there, and you also see me on there. Now, if you have Instagram, the fastest way to get to that YouTube page and see everything that's on there, including Chuco, which he said he will upload this Thursday. So by the time people hear this podcast, it'll be there. You can go to my you can go to my IG page, my Instagram page at official Cesar Garcia. That's official Cesar Garcia on Instagram. And on my bio, I have the link on there to the YouTube. If you click on that, you can see Chuco. You can see a lot of other stuff that I've done with this particular director and producer, including that.
I love the classical. I can't emphasize, man, that was so cool. I didn't expect the classical music at all, and it was beautiful throughout the whole short film. Whose idea was that to use classical music?
To use classical music, I believe, was the idea of the co-producer and director. I co-wrote it and co-produced it. So I had my hands in a little bit of everything, but the classical music, I believe, was originally the idea of the director. And then the producer loved it and shared it with me, and I loved it, and then we did it. Yeah.
For just that type of genre of films, of people, what kind of genre would you call that? Like people from the hood or people?
I would say, gangster.
Yeah, that genre of gangster.
Urban LA gangster.
You just never hear classical music with stuff like that, man.
Right.
So I just love the contrast that it provided. I can't express enough how much I loved it. Everyone should definitely see that short film. The classical music will get you, I promise.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite projects that I've worked on. It was really cool. Something different, definitely.
So as a writer, how did you become a writer?
Well, like I said, I started by co-writing here and there on different projects, and I am now in the process of actually writing my own script. So it kind of just happened being around people who were doing that already, and getting involved in the development of their projects. And now I want to move on to actually write my own script.
Where do you get your ideas and inspiration, to become a writer? When you get these ideas, to jot these ideas down or these aspects down?
Well, to become a writer is just something that you want to do. It's just something that happens. Like at some point after acting for a while, I wanted to tell my own story. Now, as far as what the content will be, I've researched writing as well from a lot of people who are great writers, and so I've picked up things from them. And they always say, don't write what you think is cool or what you think is popping at the time. Write whatever you're passionate about, because that's going to be the best thing at the end of the day. You know, it's always going to be what you truly understand, feel, love, and are passionate about it. So as far as choosing what to write, I'm just going to go with that. I'm just going to look into myself, and whatever is it, the things that I'm passionate about, I'm just going to write it about that, you know? But the idea to write kind of just happened after a while, and being around other people doing their own ideas. And at some point I just said, you know what? I want to put my own idea on paper.
So what is Cesar Garcia passionate about?
Cesar Garcia is passionate about so many things that it makes me dizzy.
I'll take a whole other podcast.
Yeah, it's a whole other podcast. It's funny because even though I'm an actor, I was just telling someone last night, I'm an actor. I love acting, but there's so much other stuff that I want to do. You know, there's so many things that I want to do. I want to make millions of dollars in acting. I want to break ground and become a great actor. I want to set, you know, a mark in acting, right? But at the same time, I also want to do other things. So when I get there, I want to use that money to do other things that actually have nothing to do with acting. I've always had many passions, you know, and you know, through the acting, I believe that I'll be able to do some of that stuff as well. But as far as passions for writing, I'm gonna go with what I know first of all. The life that I lived, you know, holds. There's so many angles and aspects to it, you know, living the life of of a gang member when I was younger, being in and out of jail, doing drugs, alcohol and drug abuse, and all this crazy stuff that is no longer part of who I am today. But I'll probably start with that stuff. I'll probably start with some true stories that you can't make up about me in that life.
It seems like in Hollywood, everyone's going independent now. You don't need Hollywood's permission or platform to do things. People upload things on YouTube, on Instagram, whatever they can. People are like circumventing Hollywood. I know you have a lot of independent projects going on. Could you talk about those projects, or what does Cesar Garcia have going on as far as independent work?
So as far as things that I have in the works, like I said, I'm about to write my very own script. I plan to direct it. At the moment, already, I am working with a couple of people in developing a TV series. So that is in the works. We're working on that right now. We've been working on it for a few years now. It takes a long time, to get it right. You got to keep polishing it and keep working it until it's never going to be perfect. No project is ever perfect, but we're getting really, really close to where we want it. So I'm working on that. I'm also working on developing a other movie with someone else, and then as far as just Cesar Garcia outside of acting, just other things that I'm involved with and doing is doing a lot of stuff for the youth, for the kids, for inner city kids, from LA for the most part, but I do travel all over the United States doing the same thing. So what I started doing just here in LA, I am now doing all over the country. Yeah. And that is speaking at schools, gang intervention, drug intervention programs, helping kids graduate from drug programs, and halfway homes and stuff like that. Speaking to kids at correctional facilities, and at-risk facilities all over the country. But I started doing that here in LA. So what I started in LA has now,
blossomed.
Yeah, blossomed.
So I want to ask you that. So how did you start talking? How did you start making it a mission to go to these correctional facilities for youth and to go inspire them?
The way it started was after doing acting and getting, the recognition for it. I felt like I for once had, something of not only value but of power. If I'm an influence now, then what can I do with it? So what I did is I turned that notoriety that I've gotten through the acting and turned it into a tool that I now use to influence kids that might be going the wrong way, influence them to go in a way that is beneficial to them, and just going back to who I was, when I was younger, I wish that there would have been people like me, that could have reached out to me and stopped me sooner, in my past life, from doing all the things that I did and suffering from all the stuff that goes on with gangbanging and drugs and all that stuff, and all the time that I spent in jail, growing up. I spent most of my juvenile life in jail, in and out of jail, because of that. So going through all that and losing most of the peers, most of the people that I grew up with are all dead or doing consecutive life sentences, to be honest. It sucks, but it's true. It's the honest truth. Out of my generation, from my peers growing up, there's probably like 3 people or 4 that are actually free and alive. That is the honest truth. Including my brother passed away, due to the life. And pretty much everyone else that I grew up with. I recently, I have a friend who had gotten life, and he's the only one out of all of them that actually was able to get out after doing 20-some years in prison. He is now out, and I'm actually doing the same for him. Even though he's already on the right track, I'm there as his support, and I do the same for him. I continue to encourage him to move forward and lead a whole different life, and make something of what he has left, which is what I'm trying to do. And in the process, I want to help as many people as I can, to do the same. And I want kids to not have to go through that. I don't want, if I can, every time I speak to a room, whether it's 100 kids or 1,000, which has been sometimes even more than that. I've spoken to entire high schools, in their gym that is filled, benches filled on both sides, So we're talking a couple thousand kids, And for me, it's all about if I can reach even one kid, with my message and with my encouragement to do better, when they might be on the wrong track. That alone right there is like the biggest fulfillment for me. That right there feels better than being on the biggest movie or the biggest paycheck or the biggest role. Yeah, and it's real. It's real life. So for me, that's how it happened. It kind of just evolved little by little, where I was in life, who I am today, what I have. How can I use this to make a difference, and stop so many kids, from ending up like most of my peers, underground or behind bars, for the rest of their life, and all the suffering that goes on with that, their families, their kids, if they have any brothers and sisters, So that's how that kind of came about.
Do you reach out to these facilities, or do they reach out to you, inviting you to go speak to them?
Now they reach out to me. But at first I reached out to them.
You did? Okay, you did reach out to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw you on if people go on your Instagram, you were in Laredo, Texas, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, how was that? How was that experience when you were there? I think was that your most recent one?
I think so. I'm not sure if that's the most recent. Sometimes when I don't post anything is because I'm speaking at places where I can't take pictures or film.
Got it.
And if there's not like a news crew or whatever that does a story on me or that particular thing, then most people won't know about it. So probably the last televised thing was probably that.
The Laredo one.
Was probably Laredo.
How was that for you, that experience when you went there?
Again, like I said, it's amazing. It's amazing to go out of, it's amazing to travel away from where I'm from and to these new places that some of them I've never been to, and share my story and, in light and encourage and motivate, young people to do great things and to do things that will benefit their life in so many ways. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm telling you, this is the greatest joy ever. I swear it is.
How has talking to troubled youth and talking to, to kids that are at risk, how has this changed your perspective on humanity and made you a better person?
It's definitely made me a better person. And every time, the longer I do it, the more I do it, it rebuilds me from the inside. It does something amazing, that nothing else can do. I think it all goes back to just being a human being, when you do something for someone, you get this feeling, right? I think everybody can experience that, right? I think if you're someone who doesn't really help anybody ever, right? But then the day you do, there's something you walk away with, and it's so crazy how that empowers you as a person as well. It makes you a stronger person. It makes you a more confident person. It does so many things to you psychologically that are also so empowering for yourself. Growing up the way I did, I didn't have much hope, and a lot of the things that I was doing, as terrible as they might have been, I thought that was normal. I thought that was normal, It's like a friend once said, that I know. He said, "You don't know what bad is until you know what good is." And so growing up, I had a very different outlook and perspective on humanity, and now that I'm older, and especially in doing the work that I do with youth, with kids and all that, a lot of times these kids, they'll reach out to me after being at a maybe going to their school. Maybe they were incarcerated and I spoke to them at a juvenile hall or a probation camp, and years later, or a year or whatever later, they come out and they'll reach out to me and they'll tell me how they're doing better because of some of the stuff that I said. So
that must be the best feeling in the world.
It is. And you know what? And it gives you a different perspective on humanity, in the sense that, regardless of who you are and the trouble that you might be in or the wrong path, people can really, really change their lives if they really, really want to, or if they have enough reason, or if someone just says something that sparks something in them, or drops a seed and that seed grows into something, So it's changed my view on humanity, from feeling that humanity could be in many ways hopeless. Now I know that is not the case, and there is hope. There is hope, even in the darkest places, with the worst of people, or what society would consider the worst of people. There is hope. There is hope, and things can evolve in the most amazing good ways.
So after this episode, during this episode, when people go on your Instagram, because I know you're going to get a lot of followers after this episode, one of the first things they're going to see is that you're really positive, man. Where do you get this positivity from?
You know what? After going through a lot of the stuff that I've been through, and seeing how great my life is now compared to then, and the fact that it always seems to be getting better. And don't get me wrong, I have bad days like everyone else does. But I guess when you've had a life of so much experience like I have, I started really young. I became a father when I was a teenager. I was one of those kids that got to experience life for the worst or for the better. I was able to do more than most kids. I was raised by a single mom. I didn't have a father. I've never met my father. I don't know his name. I don't know who he is, and it doesn't matter anymore. But you can imagine a kid like me, I got into trouble at a very young age. I had that leeway to do a lot of bad stuff, So I've lived a very full life on both sides of the spectrum, from being down and out and really being in the worst situations that a human could be in their life and live through. And now, the heights that a lot of humans or average people can only dream of experiencing, right? Being on set, doing all this cool stuff with the acting and speaking and people listening, and knowing who I am and stuff like that. So with all that being said, after all that, there's no way to go but up. And up means good, and good means positive. So for me, it's very simple for me to remind myself of where I've been, even in my worst of days. And every time I do that, no matter how much of a bad day I'm having, when I remind myself where I was in the past, where I've been, and how awful some of those moments were, including losing my own brother and losing the bestest of friends, and having nothing, let alone not even having self-esteem, feeling as low as I felt in my life when I was younger, at times. When I remind myself of that, bro, that right there just sparks positivity in me, and it brings me, happiness, joy, gratitude. No matter where I am on any given day today, when I remind myself of where I've been and the fact that I'm still here, and to have the opportunities that I'm having today, I can't help to be positive. I can't help to be positive. You couldn't work on making me unhappy. As long as I have that to go to, and I can connect those dots, there's no you can't make any day really bad for me. And even if it's bad for a few minutes, it takes me a few minutes to get out of that rut immediately, just by doing that. That's the process I use, and that's how I stay positive.
Not only are you entertaining people, but you're changing people's moods right now as they're listening to this podcast. These are questions I just have to ask you, because if I don't, people are going to email me saying, why didn't you ask him these questions? Why didn't you ask him these questions? You had them there. So this first question, I know you've gotten this question 100 times, and I know I'm not going to be the last person to ask it to you. I think you already know I'm going to ask you. How does someone become a Hollywood actor?
Well, there's many, many ways to become a Hollywood actor, as I have now, realized. For me, like I said, it was a very specific kind of weird kind of thing. It just kind of happened. So you can't live your life waiting for that day for something to happen like it did for me. Hey, whoever's listening right now, if you want to be an actor, go out there and get it. Go out there and get it. Learn about it. Research it. We got Google. Research what it takes to be an actor. One thing you're going to need, I can tell you, is you're going to need acting classes. No matter how good of a person you are. A lot of girls tell me, I'll meet, females is the ones that would say something like this, where they'll be like, oh man, I'm a big drama queen. My family thinks I'm a drama queen. I would be good at acting, and I'd be a great actor. You could be a great actor, but that alone isn't going to cut it. The art of acting is actually a craft. And it's something that you need to learn. You need to polish, you need to tweak, you need to develop it, So how you become an actor is the same way how you become anything else in life, how you become a baseball player or a singer or a rapper or a famous scientist. It all starts somewhere. If you have the, what is it called to be an actor? If you have
talent,
not talent, but like the want. What is it called?
The want?
The desire.
The desire.
Okay. So if you're out there listening and you have the desire to be an actor, go after it. Go after it. It's not easy. There's no guarantees, but it is absolutely possible. And I'm living proof. And even though for me the road to where I'm at was different, it kind of just happened. Now I understand that if you want something, you got to make it happen. You can't wait for it to happen. For me, it happened, luckily. Not sure if I've ever would have thought of being an actor, but the kind of person that I am today, there is other things I want to do, and I'm going to do those things the way that I'm telling you. I'm just going to go after those particular things. I'm going to learn about them. I'm going to do the research, the background. I'm going to study the people that are best at that. Like if you want to be a baseball player, study the best. If you want to be a boxer, study the best, and learn from them. Learn from their story. Learn from their process. What did they do to get to where they're at? It's what I do. I study people all day. I study all my favorite actors. I read their biographies. I look at, I take notes as far as things that they did to get to where they're at, and that's how you do it.
How about someone right now that's already in Hollywood? Like, let's say they've done a couple commercials, done a couple of things here and there, but they're not really breaking through. They don't really have that momentum to really go forward. A lot of people, I've never been in the industry, but I assume that a lot of people just get lost in it, right? They're in a rut. They don't have that momentum to go forward. What advice do you have to those people?
Well, it's not like one recipe or formula I can honestly give you, but there's many aspects of it. Of course, it starts with yourself. Representation is actually, important as well. Whoever's representing you. Sometimes people stay with someone too long too. I think in this business, because everything is moving so fast and there's people coming here every day from all over the world to do acting, you can't be idle for too long. And what I mean by that is that if something isn't showing,
if something isn't progressing.
Yeah. And what I mean by that is if something's not progressing, then you got to look at yourself and see why it's not progressing, and then make changes, whether it be yourself, whether it be the people that are working for you or you're working with. There's no one way of doing it or one like strategy that works for everyone, but it's a million pieces. And if you are already in the industry, but you're not getting nowhere, then there's probably something that you're not doing. There's probably something you're overlooking that you should look into and fix, correct, develop, whatever that may be. Sometimes people become too comfortable. In this business, you can't become comfortable, because if you do, then someone else is going to pass you up. And they're going to take the opportunities that could have been yours because you're too comfortable. So I think it goes back to just being, just being successful, period, no matter where you are in life. Never get too comfortable. Always look for things that you can do better. Always look for things that are going to add up to your goals, and always push yourself, So there's probably something you're not doing if you're stuck in one level.
From your life's experiences to your career to inspiring kids, what's one thing that life has taught you that you hold dearly that you would like me and the audience to know about?
Well, it's going to sound obvious, but anything is possible. Anything truly is possible. I don't have like one cool thing to say, but I'll tell you whatever comes to mind right now. No matter where you are in life, no matter how old you are, just remember this. You're never going to be this young again. You will never in your lifetime be the age that you are today. And if there's something that you want to do, there is nothing stopping you except you. There really is nothing stopping you except you. Don't be your reason for not doing what you want to do and not accomplishing the things that you've dreamt about and being the person that you want to be. If there's anything you want to do, go after it. And it's better to fail than to not try. Failure is actually a good thing. And when you fail, you become better. Those are the times you learn. Those are the times you come up with the best tools in life. You attain through struggle. You attain through failures. You attain through the hardest moments in your life. The hardest moments in your life make you better, one way or another. And I guess, I don't know if I answered it right, but you know what? Go after your dreams. Anything is absolutely possible. Of course, flying like Superman is impossible, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Everything else is possible. If there's someone out there doing something, then it's obviously possible. And I don't remember who said this, but I read a lot of books. That's something I would encourage, just in general in life, not necessarily just acting, but I try to read about 100 books a year. I haven't reached that 100 mark yet. I'm at 27 already in this year, so I'm kind of behind this year. But I read somewhere someone say, everything that is impossible is only impossible until someone does it. Once someone does it, it is no longer impossible. I don't care where you think you are. I'm too short. I'm too slow. I'm too old. No, nothing is impossible. If someone's done it, then you can do it too.
I love that. Everyone, Cesar Garcia with a great interview today. Cesar, please tell everyone how they can find you. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want to give out.
You can find me on social media, starting with Instagram, official Cesar Garcia. You can find me on Facebook, official Cesar Garcia. There's a YouTube channel that has a lot of content that I'm in. That YouTube link is at my Instagram. It's on my Instagram bio. You'll see the link there. Click on it, and you can start by seeing that stuff. And then you can also Google me or go to my IMDb page.
I also want to say, before we end the interview, I want to give a special thanks to Kaden Phoenix. When I interviewed her, she told me that I should really definitely reach out to you and interview you. I think you left a comment on her Instagram page when we were doing the podcast. And I'm not gonna lie, I'll admit, I was scared to interview you. I mean, I was scared to email you, man. I was like, oh man, he's gonna not what, just sometimes we just get those negative thoughts, like, oh, he's gonna ignore me, he's not gonna respond to me, he's gonna look at my followers. Oh, he only has 100 followers. I'm not gonna go on this guy's show. But it's like, I don't know. I just I just have to try personally. I have to try. The worst answer I could have gotten was a no. But you didn't say no. You said yes. So all this is possible because of Kaden Phoenix. So I just want to give her the credit that she deserves. And I'm just really humbled and thankful that you made time for us to come onto the show today, to lecture us, to teach us, to inspire us, and to entertain us. Cesar Garcia, everyone, thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you.